there's a couple things that I got to do a little bit better with the next one. Here is my Assyrian bow that I built, I don't know, last summer or sometime ago. And I really love shooting this bow. Probably more so than any bow I have made or shot. I'm going to lose the string here. And some of the things that I really like about this bow, and you'll notice that it's got really fine or narrow tips out here. Almost like a pyramid style designed limb. It has good deflex in it with great reflex, and then these Sias out here at the tips. It shoots a very flat and fast arrow. There's not much to not like about this bow, but there's a couple things that I got to do a little bit better with the next one. For starters, the riser at the grip, I think it was out of kilter in some manner or fashion. I need to be a little better about making a very symmetrical riser, because in the finished bow here, there was an awful lot of positive tiller. It doesn't manifest itself as anything negative when it's being shot. It's purely just a aesthetic thing to me, I suppose. So I want to do something better with the riser here. I want to keep the length though. It's a pretty short length. Yeah, it's 12 inches in length. The Sias are another thing that I want to do a little better job with. They're awfully deep. I made them with ash so that it's not heavy like mass wise, but they're very they're deep. It makes a 1 inch deep tip down here, and it doesn't need to be quite that deep. We can do something a little more compact out here at the tips as far as the Sias are concerned, to get even a little bit more limb tip speed, which equates to arrow speed on the margin. So that is something that I'm going to work with the next bow. And lastly, probably the biggest, well, not the biggest detriment, but you know, a very specific detriment to it is that it's only 30 pounds at 29 inches. It does have a very long draw to it for the length of the bow itself. This bow, and there are some curves in it, but as it sits right here on the table, tip to tip, 59 inches. You straighten out all the curves, and that's 60 inches tip to tip. So it is a 58-inch bow with a very long draw to it. Bamboo back and belly, so you know it's going to be durable. So this time around, I'm going to try and emulate this bow almost exactly, except for the things that I just described, and then probably put a lamb, make it a tri-lamb bow. So I'll put a center core lamb in here to help me with the tillering process, because this is a directly bamboo back glued to a bamboo belly with no core lamb whatsoever in there, and tillering it got a little dicey there for a minute during its construction. So if you want to see this bow being built, I'll drop a card here for the build along. So it's going to be a group of videos, a playlist. But this bow, it turned out amazing, just a little on the light side, and I want to get a hunting weight one. So we're going to get started on that. These are the parts we're going to start with for a riser, and then for the Sias. What I have here is walnut, and the reason I'm using walnut is because it is a lighter mass wood, but I do like the color combination that it will give with bamboo. I have cut it out to 11 inches, which is 1 inch longer than the original Sias on the Assyrian bow that I made before, so that gives me just a little bit of margin of error when I'm milling these out. And then I have some pieces that are like leftover from a prior riser cutout that I did. And with this, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to stack these. This is a piece of hackberry, just like this. And the length on this is actually much longer than what I need. It's 14 inches. I plan on making a 12-inch riser piece. But what it does is give me a straight line right through the center of it so that I can get a reference point in the middle and then reference points out at the tips and ensure that it is symmetrical in its construction. I'm going to rip this piece in half, laminate it together, get the way the growth rings on this are, it's flat sawn like this, so when I cut it through here and then basically book match the glue line, I'll have all vertical grain through those sias, which should lend to the strength out there on the string. Here is the glue up operation. So you can see my two pieces of walnut here that were ripped in half and then glued face to face. And then what will be my riser section. And you can kind of make out here where I marked in the center, and then 6 inches out from center. So that's my 12 inches for the center riser to help me get a even layout for that. All the parts were glued together here with Type Bond 3. And just a little helpful hint that I'm not sure I've ever really pointed out in any of my videos prior to now, is to just take a little bit, and you can just kind of see my finger creating wrinkles in the plastic wrap that I taped down on 4 corners right here. So there's just plastic wrap right on my work surface, so that all the little glue drips that I'm getting as a result of gluing everything up is not going to be a problem. All right, here's the finished laminations here. Hopefully you can just kind of see the pencil reflecting back in the light. So I got my sias drawn out on here. So it's hard to see it on the dark wood, but when I'm cutting it out, I'll be able to see what I got going on. And then here too, you can kind of see the shape of the riser there that I'm going to be running. And again, it's 12 inches. I mentioned that these lines were at the 6-inch mark on each side. They're not. I don't know how I managed to mess that up, but here is your 6-inch off of center mark. Got everything sanded smooth and ready to go here. Here's my sias. And then I've got what's going to be my core, which is a piece of white oak, just left over from another project. And going to taper this white oak all the way down to a feathered end, right? So that I can then glue on the sias just like this, and I will have a core with sias attached. And to that, I will then attach the bamboo back and the bamboo belly. This will be our center lamb. You can see it's really pretty thin. And trimmed right up to a just to a feathered edge there. See if I can, if I'm showing you the camera right. So this is going to be the substrate for everything. I just wanted to give a quick view of how this layout is actually going to work out. So you can see from end to end here, we're going to have just a little measure of deflex through the grip. And the core lamb is going to give us something to glue the bamboo to, and since it's tapered, is going to help us hit that tillering a little easier than trying to do it all through the bamboo. Got the strips back here. You can see the length here is running 62 inches tip to tip. That's where I want that to be. And that gives me, let's see here, like pretty much 14 inches of working limb. Between 13 and 14 inches of working limb right there. Okay, here's the bamboo that we're going to be using with this build. We got two pieces here. Got the shape drawn out on the back sides, and you can kind of see in the color variation, this piece is raw and this piece is heat treated. And we heat treated what's going to be the belly piece of the bow because in its natural state, bamboo is horrible in compression. At least for the purposes of building bows. So when we temper it, we kind of give that compression quality back to the material. It's akin to heat treating whitewood bows, right? You would heat treat the belly, but if you were to heat treat the back, it becomes brittle and subject it to breakage in tension. But in compression, heating up the material actually gives it better compressive qualities, and that's why we tempered that bamboo right there. I have evenly bending belly lamb and backing lamb, and you can still see the difference in coloration here, the tempered versus the raw. And the reason that I tempered this one as a whole piece from the beginning or in advance of processing it is that when you allow it to get thin, like if you were to thin it out and then heat treat it, it takes on like a crowned surface on what used to be your flat glue surface. So I wanted to avoid having to regrind this particular piece like I've had to do with my belly pieces in the past. So I tempered the whole piece ahead of time. The belly is 0.24 inches thick at the grip area and then tapered to a tiller. The backing is a 0.20 at the grip area and then tapered to a tiller. So those are the starts right there. My core lamb is exactly 0.90 at the center and then tapered to a feather. So it's just a straight taper right out to a feathered edge. You might call that like a really elongated power lamb. Going to have the riser on this piece like this. Now this is the back of the bow here. This would be the belly. And ordinarily I'll run my bellies right over the top of the riser piece, but in this instance it's going to work a lot better to do it from the back side here, or the belly side rather. Got then the Sias here that will be glued up to the ends, and then everything sandwiched between the bamboo. So at this point it's just a matter of figuring out the whole gluing process and how to get all these parts together without any gaps or twists or issues like that. That'll all be documented here shortly. So guys, this is all the pieces and parts. We will get on with the glue up next week when we get back together and see how this guy turns out, how all the pieces and parts come together. So again, thank you for joining me this week, guys, and I will catch up with you next week.